All right, welcome. If you watch this video, it's probably because you've been hired or you're going to be hired to perform an interactive show. This could be a highline show, a trickline show, or any kind of other performance. Now, in general, at Slackline Events, we try to work with sound as much as possible because a performance is mostly visual in many cases, a slackline performance, and adding a microphone to the artist's performance really creates another dimension of immersion for the audience, and it really increases the quality of the experience and the quality of the show overall. But um, a few things that there's a few really important things in order to for it to be a successful experience, for it to be a good experience, for you as a performer and for the audience in general. So I want to talk about this in this video. Um, so first of all, you're going to be equipped with a microphone that hooks behind your two ears and comes to the side in front of your mouth or a little bit to the side, where we only use really, really high quality microphones that are very small and they stand really well in your head. You almost don't feel them. So if you're doing any sort of acrobatics, etc., it doesn't matter. It's fine. You can do it with a microphone. Now, before going any further, I want to assure you that I have performed 100 plus shows, 100 plus highline shows, and 100 plus trickline shows all over Europe and all over the world. And I've done it without microphone, with different types of microphones, and I really have a lot of experience with this. And that's why I'm recording this video, so that you can learn from this experience and hopefully maybe avoid a couple mistakes that I've made in some shows. Because sometimes the microphone was falling off. Sometimes what I said or the way I said what I said was a little bit off or not that interesting for the audience. And I really tested different types of interactions with the audience. So if you're hired for an interactive show, you really need to make sure that you understand what is expected from this interaction. What kind of audience will you have? Because you don't interact the same way with an audience made of adults or made of children. So you really need to make sure that you actually do not some research, but just make sure that you understand who is listening and what kind of audience you are performing for. And if there's any type of intention or objective or goal or message that you need to carry, represent, talk about, anything you need to incarnate. That's the idea. So make sure you talk to the project manager um, and actually understand what the client wants, etc. So just a few guidelines for the type of show where you actually talk during the performance, because the easy type of interaction is basically this is something we do often in a trickline show, but it can happen in highlighting as well. We put a microphone on the artist, but it's not to talk. We don't use the microphone to talk in some cases. We use it simply to record the sound of your breath, the sound of your movement. And in a performance, when the audience hears your breath, because you're focusing to walk on the high line or you're focusing on a trick or something, this creates a lot of tension. And this is really cool for the audience. So in some cases, we don't want you to talk. The idea is not to literally interact, but we still amplify your voice, your sound, your breath, etc. So this is the easy kind where you don't really need to talk, you don't really need to interact. But then the type where you need to interact, there's a specific concept that we offer to our clients, which is an interaction between the performer and the audience live through microphones. So for example, you'll be walking on a high line, you have the microphone, and there's a microphone in the audience, and there's someone going around in the audience responsible for the microphone, and they're going from one person to the other, passing the microphone around and going towards people and asking people, do you want to ask any question to the performer? What do you want to say? What do you think about this performance, etc.? And so the person in the audience might say, hey, really cool what you're doing, congrats. What's the longest slackline that you've walked on? And then you answer, you answer this question. Now, I really want to talk about this because it's very easy to go to make it awkward. Um, Many ways to make it awkward. Your answers could be really, really long. That's one option. For example, if someone asks you, what's the longest slackline that you've walked on? If you tell them a story about, I've done this. I'm telling you that I'm telling you all of this because I've actually done this and it was a mistake. So I would answer to this question with a story. I would say like, wow, okay, so the longest slackline that I've been on. Well, when I was 14 years old, I received a slackline from my dad as my birthday present, and that slackline was 15 meters long, and it was really difficult to walk. It took me more than a year almost to actually walk that 15-meter slackline, and it was a big journey. Like I felt so much because my legs were shaking, etc. It took me a really long time until I managed to walk that 15-meter slackline, and then finally I could walk a longer slackline, and then we did this and blah 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 blah, and I keep on going for like minutes until I actually get to the answer, which is, and so the longest slackline that I walked on so far is 1.4 kilometers long in my case. So very, very long answer. And so that's not so good because the person in the audience just asked a very simple question, and you're sort of giving it away because other people in the audience might also want to ask questions, follow-up questions. But if you give it all away, if you talk too much, then you're probably going to answer to a lot of questions, and you remove this interactive part. You sort of spoil it. Um, and so And so that's not optimal. But if you give the opposite answer, which would be a super short answer, it's not good either. For example, you could say, so what's the longest slackline that you've walked on? And you answer, it's 500 meters. It's 1 kilometer. Oh, I have the world record. It's 3 kilometers. Like if you give super short answers, it's boring. And I've seen this. I also I I did this mistake, and I've seen other performers do this mistake, where it's basically, what's the longest slackline? 500. When did you start? 14. What's the highest that you walked on? 200 meters. Like, it's just boring answers. Like, the point of this interactive part of the interaction is not to give cold and boring and simple answers to the questions that people ask. It's to tell a story, okay? The whole point of the interaction is to make is to share your life and your story and your passion and why the hell are you standing on the slackline right now, and how is it even possible that you can do this. The whole idea of the interaction is to share these stories, but you need to find the right balance between a really short answer and a really long answer. The long answer is not optimal, the really short answer is not optimal either. So you sort of want to find an in between where you give it a little bit away, you tell your story, but keep your answers between like 10 seconds to 30 seconds maximum. That would be a good range. But I like to talk, and I'm really like, I'm at ease with the microphone. I'm not shy or anything. So if someone, like, I could go on and on and on for minutes before like I answered the question of the person. And that was a big mistake. So I really learned to like tell a story, give some insights into your life, into your emotions, into what you're feeling, what you're seeing, etc. Because some people will ask you, "Are you scared?" And so this is an emotional question. And so don't just answer no, I'm not scared. Or don't just answer yes, I'm scared. No, it's like explain like what are you feeling? What emotions? Were you scared at the beginning when you started? How do you feel now? Are you feeling nervous because of the performance? What about the height? What do you see? What's the view? What's the just tell the story. That's the key thing. That's the most important thing. But you need to find the right balance between between your story and the length of the story, the content and the length. So yeah, that's for the length. And then the other part of the other important aspect would be really careful. Um, So, two things. I want to talk first about silence, because in an interactive performance, you do not need to talk the entire time. So, I want to talk about that. And then I also want to talk about um, all of the nerdy rigging technical aspects of slacklining, because that's a big mistake that I see performers do is they talk too much about the technical aspect. Um, so let me cover these two things. So the first is silence. Silence is crucial, because if you perform on a slackline um, and you have a microphone on and the performance is 20 minutes long, for example, or 15 minutes long, if you talk for these 15 minutes nonstop, it's going to be super, super boring. People are going to get bored. Why? Because you have probably amazing stories and amazing things to share and to tell. But at some point, in general, we end up repeating ourselves or talking about details that don't matter or that are not interesting to the average person. And I really encourage you to like answer to any questions when there is a question, and to talk even when there is no question. Let me explain this, because if you've never performed before with a microphone, this can be counterintuitive. Because sometimes I would be walking on the High Line and people are asking questions, and in school we're talking, etc. It's super interesting. And then questions stop, but I still have another 10 minutes to go. Now, what I recommend is just keep on walking, do your show. And if you feel like, connect yourself to your intuition. And if you feel like you want to share something, an interesting story, something like maybe something you see, like, wow, the view here up here is really amazing. This is what I see, or now I'm going to turn around. Like, sort of commenting what you do can be really interesting for people. For example, if you turn around on the slack line without sitting down, for example, or if you reach the end of the line, I would always say, like, okay, I've got a few meters left. These are my last steps. Are you with me, everybody? You know, and then I sort of uh, reactivate the audience, and they're like, yeah, we're with you, come on, because it's the last steps, and it's like it's a strong emotional moment of the show. If I would turn around, I would say, like, okay, this is a challenging move for me. I'm going to turn around on the slack line. Are you ready? One, two, three, and I turn around. And so it's a strong, captivating moment of the show. So you can comment on what you're doing. You can also ask the audience, for example. So no more questions. There was like a silence for, you've been walking in silence for like a minute or two, maybe. You can ask the audience, okay, everybody, would you like to see a trick? And then the audience goes, yeah. And then okay, so let's start with an easy trick. And then you do a knee drop, or a double drop knee, or maybe you do a one hand lever, or you do exposure, or maybe maybe the audience wants you to fall, or maybe you ask the audience, hey, do you want to see me fall? And then he goes, yeah. And then you say, okay, ready, careful, build up the tension. Are you ready? Ready, everybody? One, two, three, and then you take your each fall. It's a strong moment of the show. So make sure you play with the audience. What I wanted to say with all of this is that if you don't shut up a single time for the entire performance, at some point it gets annoying for the audience. They also just want to like watch you. You know what I mean? So don't talk all of the time. There's really like a right balance to find with the interaction. What else? I'll just what other examples? Yeah, the tricks, the end of the line. I only have a couple steps, counting the steps. Um, I would always like explain during a performance that in highlining in general at the beginning, the most scariest part, and in a performance as well, probably the most scariest part, at least for me, was to stand up at the very beginning because I'm safe on the line. And I would like speak to them. I would tell this like the most scariest moment for me of this performance is to stand up because right now I'm sitting and I'm moving out on the line while I'm talking to you, and I have both of my hands on the line. I'm safe, and really like when I have to stand up, this is where I get out of my comfort zone, and this is where I really have to focus. So if I don't talk to you in the first few seconds after I stand up, it's normal because I really have to concentrate. Okay. So are you with me, everybody? Yeah, okay. I'm going to try and stand up now. Ready? Yay! Everybody shuts up. The audience shuts up in silence because they know it's an important moment. Then I take like 30 seconds in silence, take my time, stand up, breathe in the microphone, take a step, take a second step. Okay, everybody, I've just taken a couple steps. I feel good. It's shaking. It's a little bit difficult, but I'm here. I'm really excited to be here with you. So super amazing to be here. If you want to share anything, if you want to talk, if you want to ask any question, there's a microphone around you. Feel free to uh, ask or say anything in the microphone. Let's talk for a little bit. I will keep on walking, and I'll maybe just share a little bit of my story while I'm walking. I would literally say this. Okay. Um, so the beginning, standing up, walking, the breath, breathe stronger than necessary, just so that they can hear you. It also helps you to concentrate, honestly. Um, what else? Yeah, that's it basically. There's no rule. You can tell your own story, you can do your own tricks, you can invent your own stuff. But you get I think the goal of this video is to give you general guidelines of what to do and what not to do. Um, okay, so last thing I want to talk about is super important. It's be careful not to go too deep into the technical rigging and nerdy stuff. That's really important. Um, because people will ask you definitely, are you attached? Are you secured? And I've seen performers answer to that question explaining that yes, they're secured with a rope, and there's a dynamic rope, but there's also a piece of webbing around it, and it's tied with a figure knot to a ring that is it's a double aluminum ring, or it's a double steel ring, whatever, and then. The slackline is made out of Dyneema, so it's really strong. Dyneema is this crazy material that does this and this, and then it's really strong. So if I fall, there's not a problem. Blah blah blah. Then there's the slackline is into a weblog, and there's a backup going underneath in case the first line breaks, whatever. It also stabilizes it, and we use weblogs and we've blah 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 blah. This is honestly not a good idea. This is generally people get bored really quickly. People want to know technical stuff sometimes, and if they want to, they will ask. But don't talk about it because most people don't give a shit. Most people don't care about what material your slackline is made of, um, what what pieces of gear you use. Nobody cares. And I've seen performers talk for minutes and minutes about the gear. And honestly, it's painful to listen because yeah, nobody really cares. But of course, if someone asks you like, "What's your slackline actually made of?" Then for sure talk about it. But don't talk about it too long. Like just um, yeah, make your answer short and interesting. I think that's a good summary. It's short and interesting. Yeah, so that's an important thing. Don't be too nerdy, don't be too technical. Um, and just thinking of if I've forgotten anything. Yeah, I think globally that's it. So if someone asks you like, are you secured? How are you secured? You just explain like, I have a climbing harness. I'm attached to a rope with a rope to the slackline. You can like literally take your leash and show them like, this is my security. Do you want to see me fall? Yeah, and then you take a leash fall. Why not? In general, as a side note, actually, um, probably you received a briefing on this, but there's no leash falls at all during a performance. Like we cannot avoid them 100%, but you should assume that there's never a single leash fall during a performance. As I told you at the beginning, I've performed more than 100 Highline shows. And I've fallen, I've taken a lot of leash falls during the shows, and I've also done a lot of shows where I didn't take a single leash fall. The version with no leash fall is better, by far. The reason for that is simply that the question, the tension remains at the end of the show. Like, what happens if he falls? And this tension that is created by this doubt, this unknown of what happens, this is really strong in terms of dramaturgy, in terms of intensity of the show. It's really powerful. So definitely don't take leash falls. The only exception would be if the audience asks you for a leash fall. But careful, don't jump on the occasion because I've had Highland shows where one person asked for, or like one person in the audience screamed, like yelled, "Can you fall?" And and um, and I laughed at the question. I laughed at that person, but nobody else really followed up on that. Nobody else like said, "Yeah, come on, fall," and the entire audience didn't ask for a leash fall. If only one person in the audience screams, "Fall, fall, fall, fall," this can happen. Don't do it. Like resist the leash fall. The leash fall should be something really special. And even if you do it on purpose because the audience asks for it, pace it, like build tension. Okay, I'm going to fall. I'm going to get ready to fall. Are you with me? Yes. Are you sure you're with me? Yes. Okay, I'm a little bit scared. Ready? One. Let's count together. One, two. Okay, no, I'm scared. Two, three, and then you fall. But whatever. But build tension. It should take you at least 30 seconds to a minute to actually take your leash fall. Um, that's it. I think if, we've this was long enough. Um, it's super fun to have a microphone during a performance. Same for a trickline performance. You might not be like talking as much during the trickline performance because you're doing all of the tricks and it's difficult. You have to concentrate. But it's definitely like be clapping. You can even like clap and ask people, "Are you with me? Come on!" Cheer them up. And do you want to see another trick? And all right, this is going to be the end of the show. It's the last trick. Let's count all together. I love to do like 5 backflips in a row and just like make the entire audience count like 1 backflip, 2, 3, 4. Like as I'm doing them, we're counting all together, etc. Um, this works really, really well, and it's a really cool performance in the end. So have fun. You definitely need to do it a couple times in order to feel safe, have fun, and find the right format, the right system, etc. But that's it for this video. Have fun. Let us know. Also, please provide some feedback so we can help you. Provide some insight as well. And if you have any new ideas, if you make any new discoveries on how to make things better and more interesting, please share them. It's always nice to improve altogether. That's it.